on late, and they're about ready to take off without John.
10 seconds to go, and Johnny Goss is about 200 metres behind the rear of the field.
The start for this will be critical. Watch carefully. They're racing, and Johnson with a beautiful start. The Master of Shield gets left at the grid, and almost wacko from behind.
Jones is off.
Jones has gone off the racetrack. And as they head up the hill, the two starters for the second row again with problems. Johnson wins the start. Into second place quickly goes Gracie. Bond is the next one through, and utter frustration for Terry Shield and for Barry Jones. Here comes Queensland's Dick Johnson working down the Master corner. Gracie in second place. Third place by Bond and the 9 Camaro. And just look at the traffic. There's Shields car being pushed behind the counter, so his race is over. A frustrating time for both Mazda drivers after qualifying so well yesterday. Back though in the lead is Dick Johnson. Jones car still trying to fire the motor. He's backed it off down on the auxiliary road. We've had a crank down here. That's the Masterton. Holmes Capri has gone round. I think one of the barbecues galore vehicles was involved with that one. It speeds off into the distance as Masterton tries to work out where he is on the racetrack.
Johnny Goss, who tried to get onto the rear of the grid before the flag dropped, has been in fact black flag. Plenty of drama in this race, and the RX-7 challenge of Terry Shield and Barry Jones being put out of business right off the starting grid.
Well, the familiar faces are going to be back here. Callahan trying to contain Phil Alexander there. Here's Johnson using all of the course. Alan Grice closing up behind him. Colin Bond, Peter Brock. That's the order. 4 of the big names, 4 of the big guns heading down to the left-hander on the corner.
Against Johnson. Tripler Falcon has the lead just ahead of Alan Grice. Then the 9 Camaro, Colin Bond, Peter Brock in 05. Gary Wilmington in number 8. Muir in the Army Reserve car.
Johnson comes out of that corner nicely. Graham Moore, probably the better placed driver of the Dixon Camaro stable. Away a little bit from Peter Brock, and there's Bond sitting in third place.
V8's holding down the first 7 positions in the race, and that is a surprise.
Do they get the, well, again sideways? He's not going to do that for 3 more laps. He did it last time over the top, and I can't believe that Johnson could have tyre problems or be out of brakes. So something gone amiss with the Ford. He's driving it hard, but Grice is going to push him to drive it even harder.
I don't know what he's been doing, but he's never really solved that rear-end problem that he's had with that car. He's gone close to it, but there's still a problem there, and it just rides away from him if he's not careful. And IG, he's got no time to be careful at the moment because Grice is trying to go the outside, no way through.
I don't think he'll hold Grice. This is not the... He holds it tight against the wall. That
Colin Bond in the 9 Camaro and Peter Brock in 05.
And we've seen we had one spit out in the back straight. Not to worry about it. There it is, number 15.
Terry Finnegan in a brand new Commodore that he's putting on the track for the first time this meeting. And Terry spun out and lost several positions.
The order's still the same. Dick Johnson holding that first place in the True Blue Ford Falcon from Queensland. Second place to Sydney's Alan Grice. Third to Sydney's Colin Bond. And fourth place to Melbourne's Peter Brock.
Brock, he's 4th. Wilmington in 5th spot. Muir 6th.
Well, anything could certainly happen between the front-running 2 cars here. Colin Bond will be around to pick up the marbles. But here comes Grice down on the inside, and he has got Dick Johnson straight underneath Dick Johnson, and Alan Grice goes through, but he's all tail skating as well. Johnson roams up on the outside. There's a little cut there as well. They come back onto the start, finishing straight through Camalco Turner. Now it's Alan Grice of Sydney who's taken the lead away from Dick Johnson. Johnson closes it up as they head up Betchapave Hill to the top again. Colin Bond still in third place. That was ever so easy. He made that look very easy. Happiest boy on the block today is Alan Grice, car number 4. Wanted to win this race. A more relaxed Alan Grice than we've seen for some considerable period of time. Here he comes down to the left-hander at Honda. Laps ticking past. This is a 25-lapper.
The fans have been saying it for the last couple of weeks, and he's certainly underlined that today with his great performance. The race is not over yet, but it's getting on that way.
Here comes Ron Dixon in the popular touring car drivers, Alan Grice. Been quite a while since Alan logged a a major win in the touring car division. That's coming up for him now. He comes down with only 2 corners remaining, down into Winfield, down through the gears. Looking very straight in the car. Drives the car superbly. Last corner comes up through the Malco turn. The finishing straightaway is there, and Alan Grice comes back to win at Amaroo Park Raceway in the second round.
Well, it's a very nervous time, Mike, here in the pits at the present time. As you can probably see around me, pit crews are getting ready to do their part in this Castrol 400 race. The cars now coming around and lining up in preparation for the race, and this is really where it can be won and lost, as we mentioned before. Pit stops that need to be as quick as 15 and 20 seconds. Those churns of fuel that you'll be seeing put into the cars carry about 40 litres each. It takes about 11.5 seconds to empty each one into the car, and timing is absolutely critical. And with that in mind, we've got an award, the Channel 7 Stokes Award, and you'll know the name Stokes because they're famous for the trophies that they do make. We have a special trophy today, Stokes Trophy for the most efficient pit stop during the Castrol 400. It won't necessarily be the fastest pit stop. The most efficient pit stop, keep in mind, could win the race. Thumbs up for that stop will win the Channel 7 Stokes Trophy. Let's take you back now to our main commentary.
Thanks very much indeed, Wilco. And on the grid, let's go down to Evan Green with Peter Brock.
You can feel the tension here on the starting line. It's a real living thing, a huge crowd. The fact that Australia, well, one of the biggest races in the country, certainly the biggest in Victoria, is about to start. But the quietest man, the most relaxed man I've found is Peter Brock on pole position. Peter, how are you feeling?
Yeah, quite well. Good, actually. It's great to see such a fantastic...
Ready for start, flag shortly to rise. Front row made up of Peter Brock and Nick Johnson flying up. They're racing. Nick Johnson wins the start. Peter Brock goes with him, catches another gear, and the two of them are side by side as they come down to Ripco corner for the first time, and I think Brock has won the start and takes the lead. Johnson sticks with him on the outside. Kevin Bartlett is there. Alan Grice on the inside. Alan Moffat popping the nose of the master through a wall of cars as they race along the short pit straightaway. This time towards Arco corner with Peter Brock, the race leader. Second place being held by Nick Johnson. Then working to the outside is Kevin Bartlett as they go through the corner, and just look at that wall of cars. Bartlett brushing the fence as they go through there, and the crowd erupting as they catch sight of the Marlborough Holland Dealer Team Commodore leading the high-speed dress parade up towards Rothmans Rise. Johnson in second place and moving up very quickly into third after a great start was Alan Grice. And here he comes over the top. Brock in front, Dick Johnson in second place.
And what a great start that was, and the crowd erupting here in the grandstand as Brock widens the gap. He started on pole from Dick Johnson. Will it once again be a Ford versus Commodore race? Or will we see the emergence of other cars such as the RX-7 and the Castrol 400 for 1982? But the crowd on their feet as Peter Brock leads them coming up to complete the first lap.
You think Peter Brock was popular? Just listen to the ovation as he leads first lap, 109 remain. Number 4 making the run to the outside as the Alan Brown car and Grice at the wheel. Right behind Nick Johnson as they go through Repco corner. The short pit straight away. There's Grice up into third. Fourth is Bartlett. Then back behind Bartlett.
What's a surprise driving the Chevy Camaro? But Alan Grice in third place. But this is a man leading the race. And still the cheers go around the circuit. All the Holden fans applauding their hero. Peter Brock come through first. And in second spot now, Alan Grice. Cheekily, he got by Dickie Johnson. He's up into second spot. So it's Falcon back in third place. Camaro fourth. The two Commodores coming first and second.
Great move, that one from Alan Grice. But there's the gap as they come back once again under Dunlop Bridge onto this front straight here at Sandown Park. And the order still is Peter Brock in the Marlborough Holden Dealer Team Commodore smoking the opposition as they come down. Flags flying, 2 laps completed. Second place being held by Grice. Third to Dick Johnson. Fourth is
3-litre class stepped up the V8s, but out of the race at this early stage. With 13 laps gone. Oh, there's smoke there from, is it Johnny Harvey's car, or is it, yes, it's smoke. I thought the first, it may just be dust from the cement, but it's definitely smoke from the car. John Shepherd, what's it likely to be caused by, John Shepherd?
Well, I won't make any comments about crystal balls, Evan, but I'm afraid the only way to finding out what it is, it could be an engine oil leak, gearbox oil leak, and that sort of thing at this stage of a race is very bad news. It's very disheartening to see smoke coming out of the car.
Well, we might have a chat with Peter Brock himself. We can talk on the straights. We promised Peter we wouldn't bring our microphone into use on the bends because it's just too hard and too unfair. We'll follow him around. He's going through the S's now. Keep our eye for oil. Yes, it's certainly coming out under acceleration. Once he's clear of Dunlop Bridge, we'll press the button. We'll talk to Peter Brock and see if he can tell us just what may be happening with the oil coming through. He's coming down to Dunlop now. We'll be talking to him in about 5 seconds from now. Evan Green here, Peter. You've got oil coming from the back of the car. Any idea what it is?
Evan, I'm watching the mirror as I go past, and I suspect it's a gearbox leak, or perhaps oil seal leak.
Well, I think Peter's well aware of the problem at the moment and would be signalled by his crew.
It doesn't look too good.
On that full rock into the pits, I'll show the black flag in the belief that the oil leak may in fact be leaking oil onto the track, which of course would be a dangerous situation. There's Peter Jansen, not looking too happy. I believe that Peter Brock's in the pits now. Gary Wilkinson, if you're in position, let's know what's happening there. Coming in the pits, he's been told to do so. The black flag with his number was hung out. Come on in and fix that. Being dropped on the track. In he goes. We'll time the stop.
Yes, I'm here, and they're taking on fuel, and of course taking the opportunity to change tyres here. Peter Jansen, as you've seen, is already in the pits. Brock's crew's still trying to work out what the trouble is with the oil coming from under the car. They've got the bonnet up to see if they can see any leak that might be running back under the car from there. We don't want to interfere with the pit stop, of course, and ask them at this stage, while they're working so frantically, the look of consternation on Brock's face, of course, losing precious time. He said taking the opportunity to have a drink. There's smoke coming from under the front of the car, as you can see. I really think it's a lot more serious than they first anticipated. Quite dark, acrid smoke at the moment coming from under the car. You can see that members of the crew have the car jacked up, and they're taking this opportunity to get the closest scrutiny of whatever it is that's going on over there. Jansen is about to come out, so we'll have to move from my position, otherwise we're going to get run down. And look at the front of Brock's car. Well, goodness gracious me, I really think that that smells almost rubber and electrical. I don't know what the devil it could be, but
we've got John Shepherd here. We might ask him to try and diagnose from this distance. John, what would your guess be?
It's not abnormal for black smoke to come off the front pads, Evan, but I'd say that's a bit too heavy. It's more like rubber smoke, and what could be under the front of the car burning, I wouldn't have a clue, I'm afraid. It's very, very heavy, as you say. The action is quite serious with getting extinguishers out. Yes. It's more than just brake pads.
Yes, certainly. Extinguishers now working. The fire marshals having a little difficulty actually getting one or two of them started. Now they've got them out, and
they're actually putting spray over some of the mechanics that are still there with burnt eyes.
It really is quite confused here, Evan. I'm surprised that it wasn't perhaps a little more efficient than it looks at the moment.
Yeah, let's just show. We've got Alexander Surplus off the track on the other side in the Corolla. She and Doug Clark sharing the car that started in the macro over boost. She's been hit and bounced clear. In the meantime, back to you again, Gary. Alexander's okay, but the channel
asking the question of what's going on. Gary, they're going to change tyres.
Right. We'll keep an eye on that, Gary. We mentioned
up.
Yep.
I can barely hear you, Evan.
We mentioned that Alexander Surplus's car appeared to be damaged. We've believed she rolled over. We do have it on film. While you're keeping an eye on the pit stop involving Colin Bond, we'll go back to a replay. One of our cameramen has caught the incident in which Alexander Surplus's car was involved. So let's see just what happened to her in the Toyota Corolla number 71.
And the car has flipped rather violently. Alexandra Surplus.
It looked like two cars, Mike. There was one on the right there. A white car, may have been a Commodore, but Alexandra certainly got hit somewhere, had a violent roll. She's okay.
Holden Commodore. In second place now, John Harvey. And on his shoulders rests the hope of the Marlborough Holden dealer team today. A gap of 1 minute 9 seconds on lap 22. And in third place, car number 43, Alan Moffat. That's how they stand, lap 22.
Alan Jones up into ninth place now on car number 27. Brasley working his way up through the field, and he'll be a driver we'll be watching. Certainly a driver to keep our eyes on because he has started to peg them back. Alan Jones in 27, he has the RX-7. Started back in 10th place, so he's running about his practice position.
I think I just saw Brock coming out of the pits then too, Evan.
If that's the case, he was in for
7 minutes, 20 seconds. Could he possibly win with that sort of delay?
I would think it would be a fairly difficult job if he's like the man pushing the barrow. As I say, he's got his work in front of him.
Car number 13, which we saw just being overtaken a while ago, is the young driver David Parsons, who will be the co-driver with Peter Jansen in Bathurst, the James Hardy 1000 on October the 3rd. Peter Jansen, who has done a number of magnificent efforts at Bathurst, having come second on a number of occasions with Larry Perkins. Well, Larry has gone to the Holden dealer team and will drive with Peter Brock, and so he's taken young David Parsons driving the BMC team in the days when I was involved in, and he was an old bloke there. So he's been driving for a long time. Probably an underrated, overlooked driver, John French. Been around for a long time, and drivers who've been around for a long time without maybe winning all the major races tend to do something about getting back that lead. He'll have a go as they come up the straight around Arco, and now Grice will put his foot down and have a go at the RX-7. Can he do it? Oh, there's a spin there. You can see that's John Harvey. Oh, John Harvey's been taken out. I hope those masters are slowing the traffic because they're completely blocked off there. Harvey was taken wide by the Mazda that went out there, took him with it. A lot of traffic is going to get by. Peter Brock goes. Desperate position of Peter Brock, wondering what's happened. All that John Harvey needs is a clear spot in the traffic, but everyone's going by and he can't get the clear space to reverse out and get back into the race. He's waiting now. The master's saying, hang on. Now go. Harvey can't make a go. They're pushing the other car up. These two will hit him. They're not careful. They're side by side.
Actually backing into each other, I think, Evan.
They're at an angle, but he's clear now. The other car got itself out of the position, and now Harvey, the innocent victim in that, has lost a lot of ground. Let's look at it again. You'll see what happens. We see Moffat go through first. Now Harvey is very close. Watch. A car comes wide behind. First of all, the recar car. Now watch this. He's gone, you see. The Gemini is. Car number 78. And Harvey can do nothing but throw it around to try and save it. Magnificent driving by Harvey to avoid that, but it cost him a lot of time. A tinkle of broken glass. He got touched with the front. No mortal damage though, but he lost half a lap trying to get the space just to reverse out and get on with the race. And now John Harvey's back a long way. Alan Moffat having jumped. Car number 11.
Alan, of course, had the choice of which car he wanted to run in the endurance races, whether it be the Mazda or the Ford. And I think we've had a frame down on the exit from Repco, and we have one of the Commodores that's obviously in some problem there. Has caught up the front wheel. We'll catch some numbers for you. Yes, it's the number 13 car.
David Parsons, the young driver who'll be driving with Peter Jansen. As you can see, he's not getting much steering effect from the front of the car, but he does have the sense to get the car away from the corner. Let's take a look at it all again. Just see what happens. This is David Parsons. There's been a real tangle there. You can see cars everywhere.
How lucky was Peter Jansen, who went right through the middle of the gap.
Well, he saw his own car being pushed across, mortally damaged. Larry Koch was the other one, number 46, who went wide there and suffered fairly severe damage to his car as well. That's the Mazda RX-3. David Parsons and Larry Koch both out of third and launched the V8 era. Let's just watch as we see. Oh, yes. That's Greg Hansford in car 42.
Stack, I think it was, the South Australia that may have been.
Stephen Harrington, I think the young...
Yes, Alan Moffat going into the pit area now, so stand by Gary Wilkinson. Here comes Alan Moffat, I would think a very unusual pit stop.
Well, bad luck for the Masters, the two teammates striking trouble both on lap 47.
Well, Alan Moffat has just come into the race and is ready to you can see that he is definitely smoking, and there's obviously something slightly amiss with the car. You can see two churns of fuel going in. Just what exactly is wrong, if anything, with Moffat's car remains to be seen. The crew working frantically here. 2 churns of fuel in, and that's all he's done.
Well, he's run into a problem there with one of the other cars that have slowed down.
And in the meantime, we're watching the leader. Car number 4, Alan Grice, wondering where all the opposition has gone to. In fact, the leaderboard now shows that in second place once again is Alan Moffat. He's 23.8 seconds behind, but he's back in second place. There's so much is happening to the leading cars. And then in third place, John Harvey in car number 25. He's about 19 or 20 seconds behind Alan Moffat. Then it's car 16, which is Gary Rogers, and Dick Johnson, who of course was slowed by the pit stop. And then Terry Shield, that's the next man, and then Charlie O'Brien in car 11, George Fury in car 55. There they are on your screen. That's the order of the race at the moment, and you can see the gap between the drivers. Charlie O'Brien, the man we're watching through in car 11 as he goes through Repco, up towards Arco and past the pit straight.
22.8. So I would suggest that the reliability factor of Moffat Grice's car. In fact, he's already pitted, and the likelihood of Grice having to pit, that Grice would be well advised to try and get bigger lead as he possibly can.
A lot of traffic in front of the race leader, Paul Owen, as a car who has to pass in car 44, the Mazda. And look at that, as long as his problems are truly behind him. Alan Grice has had no troubles. He may be able to go faster. He's certainly in control of the race, and he'll be very dependent on his pit signals just to let him know what's going on. You know, he can only manage to drive in the most correct fashion if he gets absolutely precise information from the pits. John Shepherd, for years, you managed the Marlborough Holden dealer team. What sort of information would the pit crew be giving him at this stage to say you're in front, take it easy, or what information?
Even if they would be having a lot to say, basically when you're in a long distance race like this, you leave it up to the driver to use his lope and not do stupid things and not wear the car out, because in fact he can't convey all the information to you, and you could be giving him signals from the pits based on erroneous information or guesswork on your part, so really it's up to the driver.
Dropping back to the gap between second and third has lengthened about 3 or 4 seconds in the last few laps, and we can see coming into the pits, car number 16, Gary Rogers.
Gary Rogers has been doing very well in this race. He's now handing out Ron Wanless, the former Speedway driver. But Gary put the car up in a very competitive position. They've been running up in the top group all the time. They're now in 4th place. They're in for their pit stop, and it's over once again to Gary Wilkinson.
Evan, this car seems to be running beautifully. It did run fantastically in qualifying, as we know, with Gary Rogers doing a 1:12.7, and he's been keeping right behind the pace right throughout this race so far, with seemingly without too much difficulty. Now, Ron Wanless strapped in, Gary Rogers out of the car, and they're set to go. It's been a very quick pit stop indeed, about 40 seconds, 45 seconds. They've taken on fuel, they've taken on tyres. Ron Wanless is on his way out. I'm going to try and grab Gary Rogers while we have the opportunity, fresh out of the car. He can tell us a little bit more about what's been going on out on the track. Gary Rogers, fresh out of the second of the lead car Commodores. And Gary, whilst you haven't been perhaps mixing it with the front 2 or 3, you've been sitting right in behind the pace, and the car seems to be going very, very well.
Actually, Gary, the car's going bloody awful, I hate to say. We've got the most severe understeer problem. I can't believe it. Yesterday, perfect. We've done absolutely nothing except put a set of tyres on and you cannot drive it. It's absolutely undrivable.
And then how have you managed to keep into the position that you're in?
Well, we're 3 seconds a lap slower than we were yesterday, and I honestly believe that I could have gone quicker yesterday anyway.
Well, you can't explain why that's happened.
Well, all we've done is put a set of tyres on, the same as we used yesterday. Whether there's something wrong with the tyres or not, I don't know, but you cannot drive the car. It just understeers off every corner. Fast, slow, it doesn't matter.
Well, I just hope that Ron can handle it out there.
Well, I certainly hope he can too.
Okay, Evan, all yours.
Thank you very much. That's an enormous load on Ron Wanless, and not as experienced a driver as Gary Rogers, John Shepherd. It's very hard for the lead. No, yes, Paul still in front by 0.7 seconds from 43. He's in the pits. That's what's happened. We can't find him. So, Gary, what's happened? We've got the leader in the pits.
Yes, Alan Grice is in the pits, and the crew working frantically, as you can see, again changing the right side tyres, front and rear. Fuel going in, 1, 2, second churn going in. Grice indicating that he wants a drink because, boy, it really is hot work out there, and he's been driving a demon of a race. And this car, this Commodore, is really going like smoke here this afternoon, and Grice wants to make every post a winner, as you can see. The crew working frantically. Tyres changed, front one's right, left one, the right rear rather, slight problem, taking just a little longer than it should to take. This is a slow pit stop. They should be much quicker than this. Grice is getting very anxious. Pit officials got their hands up, don't go yet. Grice, the jack is still under the car, they're still having trouble with this right rear wheel. Now they've got it right, the jack is not out from under the car, the jack is jammed, now it's out. Go, Gricey, go. And he's away, but it was a very slow pit stop under the circumstances. It should have been faster. Out goes Gary Cook, and the Cook and Cullen Commodore right behind him as well. Action fast and furious here in the pits, but not a good pit stop for Alan Grice.
Well, there's a car coming into the pits, by the way, that's losing its back tyre, not exactly its back wheel, but the Roadways car, young Neil, it's Barry Jones. No, it can't be right. I'm reading my numbers wrong. It's Neil Harrington. at Sandown. Alan Moffat increasing his lead at the moment. Still have to ascertain if that 1 minute penalty will apply for excessive speed in the pits. Yet to be confirmed, but Moffat has the lead anyway over car 4 Alan Grice and John Harvey. And the Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodore still in 3rd place. Car number 17, the Dick Johnson Ford, is currently in 8th place. Back to Gary Wilkinson in the pit area.
Thanks very much, Ben. Weight of that car compared to the Mazda, it does seem a bit ridiculous that they both have to build to run the same width rubber, or can't go beyond that width.
I guess the thought in what you're saying is quite good, Evan. The question that does tend to raise its head is people changing rules.
Yeah, talking rules. I'm wondering if that's Gricey. Car number 4, there are a couple of recars there. It looked like the man who is running in 2nd place, having himself an awful moment on Arco Bend. He didn't hit the Arco, but gee, he had a good look.
Going into the pits, but I think his position on the track with Johnson at that time, he probably, we've had one, the recar number 16.
Gary Rogers. Yeah, that's Ron Wadless driving. You know, the car that remember Gary Rogers said can't steer, won't turn. He's right. Well, he proved it. So he went a long way, but Ron Wadless seems to have caught it without hitting much more than the tyres at the beginning of Arco. Now it has back on the track. And he'll drive around for a while just to see with any flat box have been caused on the tyres. Too happy to slide into that hole where he just couldn't get the car to come around the corner. He's going into the pit area though, just one gesture and a great cheer from the crowd when Moffat goes into the pits. Now watch this man in motor racing. He's going fairly quickly into the start of the pits. We might end up with a 2-minute penalty. Look at the crowd, they're alive as Moffat goes in.
Yeah,
this is the man leading the race.
Slow him down too as he's going through the pits.
A critical stop. Gary Wilkes will be on the scene soon, but it is a very crowded pit area there. That was the world's quickest pit stop. We might ask Gary what they did. I shouldn't say it was so quick.
Well, Evan, what they did, they put in half a churn of fuel, and it took them just a tick under 8 seconds to do it. And that was all. They didn't change the tyres at all. Moffat must have been getting pretty desperate in the fuel situation because the
race for him.
And may I tell you again, the stewards are going out with a black flag onto the edge of the circuit on the front straightaway. With a black flag ready, the crowd has erupted. I think the crowd are well aware. And another black flag, I think, could be going to Alan Moffat in this drama incident pack. Castrol 400 from Sandown Park. The closing stages, 6 laps remaining, and a black flag. And the signal, we'll see who it's for.
It is tantamount to disqualification. They're saying, come in the pits. And there he is out there. Now, whether he saw it, I don't know.
Well, certainly have a good excuse for not seeing it.
Yes, he was well shrouded then. It could be, we'll see, we're forced to come in almost as the race is finished because we are now on.
About to be given to Alan Moffat. Yes, it has. Black flag again at the ready.
There's the checkered flag is out now. Let's just see who they give it to. But they certainly gave the last lap forward first to Alan Grice, who on the road is in second position, 48 seconds behind Alan Moffat. Well, a race of extraordinary interest and a great deal of controversy. There's the Phillips scoreboard again for the last time here at the race.
We might keep an eye out for Grice as he comes down through the top part of the circuit through the S's, because I think Alan Grice will be given the checkered flag first. There's Alan Moffat working his way up towards Rothman's Rise. I'd say at the end of this race he'll have a little to say.
If Johnson has just gone across the start.
Little to say that's polite.
Here's the checkered flag. It's going to go to Alan Grice. Hand up, and Grice takes the Castrol provisionally. The crowd has erupted here at the grandstand. Alan Moffat has yet to finish the race, although he was in the lead by 48 seconds. But perhaps 2 pit stop infringements for going too quickly through the pit area have played their part as a penalty against Moffat. But only time will tell that. But here comes Alan Moffat, actually leading the race. Crowd erupting now as the checkered flag goes out.
Precedent in Australian motor racing, where a man leading the race and getting it comfortably apparently has been penalised out of victory through alleged infringements in pit lane. Well, toward the black flag, Alan Moffat is going around. He assumes he's won the race. He's
going to have his victory lap.
Start finish line, yes. He's not going to pull into the pits as the other drivers are required to do. Neither is John Goss. He's going around for a lap as well. But Alan Moffat deciding he's going to go around and just see what this is all about. We have Peter Landy, who's the tallest of a lot of us, going down to the area just to talk to Alan Moffat when he comes in, and to Alan Grice, and to try and find out just what has happened. Well, what an extraordinary finish.
Signaling to the cameraman.
Go away.
I'm afraid, Alan, it happens to be news. The presidents can't force the press away.
Off at Bathurst last year trying to hide some news, and I'm afraid, as you said, when it's news, it's news.
Well, here's Gricey. I'm quite sure Alan Grice will act as though he's won it home well. Message.
Yes, well, as we've heard said many times, the television camera is a microscope, isn't it? And you sort of see the harassed look on Moffat's face. He's obviously worked very hard. And
now it's a very confusing scene here at the moment. The presentation taking place with Alan Grice. We'll cut to them, and you take it back again up there, Mike Raymond.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Castrol for their sponsorship of this event. I hope it's a long-standing one. I'm particularly pleased to have won today. We've had some pretty accurate information in the pits, and it appears that that'll be the way it'll work out. But I'm particularly happy to have won the race in BMW country. I enjoy beating them. Thank you.
At Mount Panorama, his co-driver will be Alan Brown for the big race. Car number 05, the Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodore. Peter Brock, the driver in qualifying. His co-driver is Larry Perkins. Car 43, Alan Moffat in the Peter Stuyvesant Mazda RX-7. Car number 25, the second of the Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodores, with John Harvey at the wheel today. His co-driver tomorrow is Gary Scott. In car number 17 from Queensland, reliable Dick Johnson, who won last year's accident-shortened event. He'll be driving the Palmer Prudential XE Falcon. And the real surprise, car number 55, George Fury, in the first of the Nissan Turbos. In car number 9, Kevin Bartlett, pole sitter for the past 2 years in the 9 Sports Camaro. In car number 16, Gary Rogers, who drives the Recar Commodore. And rounding off the top 10 qualifiers so far, Bob Morris in the 7 Seiko Falcon. Well, there you have the qualifiers that are about ready to run off against the clock. Let's check out track conditions now with Gary Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mike. Boy, conditions are sensational for this year's shootout for the top 10 in Hardy's Heroes. In contrast to past years when it always seemed to rain on Hardy's Heroes, it's a fantastic day here on Mount Panorama.
To indicate how much improvement has been made by these cars, his time last year and this year are separated by 14.7 seconds. In other words, he has improved by nearly 15 seconds in his lap times, and he is flying in the turbocharged Bluebird, flinging it tail first into the men, up the mountain, up towards the park area now. This is where it's quick, this is where it's hazardous. We'll see how brave this man is as he comes up the top of the mountain.
Well, on practice time so far, the pole sitter in this year's race is going to have to do somewhere around the 2:18 mark, maybe even under that. So let's see what Masahiro can do as he comes around to take the checkered flag. The time going at 2:18.8.
Thank you. Okay. John Harvey now, number 25, the second of the Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodores, about to take the green flag and comes to complete his lap.
Coming around to take the flag, the time coming up. Great, it's 2:19.8 seconds.
Just marginally slower than yesterday, but let's face it, 2 seconds. Former Australian rally champion, turned to racing 18 months ago, has been one of the sensations here at Bathurst. Could be a long shot for victory. Let's see how he goes on this practice lap.
Plenty of talent, plenty of experience between himself and co-driver Fred Gibson. These cars really going tremendously. Turbo wound up, zipping down Conrod Straight. The time's going to be pretty good. They're going to go very close to best time at this point. Over the line, the checkered flag in 2:20.6.
Now the cat amongst the pigeons. Alan Moffat, the Peter Stuyvesant Mazda RX-7, off and running. Really had it wound up tight here yesterday. Uncorked a real speed blast over the top of the mountain straight. The cutting. The revs really working as Moffat now heads to try and better his time of yesterday and start perhaps towards the front of the field. Really shaving the turn there through McPhilby Park. And Moffat is really...
The Murray's corner takes a left-hander. Clock ticking over. It's not going to be as fast as he'd like. 2:19.7.
Alan, there it is, on the right hand on the bottom.
having some handling problems, the rear end of the forwards here during qualifying today and certainly during yesterday's practice. Johnson taking it through the cutting area very, very quickly indeed. The tail wag there as he comes out of the turn. The rev range, the tachometer really working here as he shaves the wall. Watch his line through this part of the circuit. He's extremely fast here.
Johnson is back with 1.2 seconds faster than he's ever been around Bathurst yesterday. Let's see how he goes on this lap.
Big hope for pole position last. Bartlett, he's already feeling the pinch at the moment.
Quick time for Johnson coming up here, I think. Taking the corner now. Here comes the checkered flag, about to go out. Fingers on the stopwatch at 2:19.5.
How did it feel with the rear wing tightened down?
Well, it didn't feel any different, Evan. Actually, I think that rear spool is about as useless as an ashtray on a motorbike because you can move it up, move it down, take it off. I don't think it'll make much difference. All it does is slow you down.
Morris, of course, last year was involved in that accident that halted the James Hardy 1000 Classic. He's back now with a new car. He won't have it around too long if he throws the tail like that, but Morris trying very, very hard indeed as he works the Ford up to the top of the mountain.
He's not a driver that tries harder than Bobby Morris. He certainly knows how to throw the car around the circuit, and that's literally what he's doing at the moment to match these incredibly fast times that have been posted at Mount Panorama. Oh, my, gee, careful, Bobby. Enormous times being posted here at Mount Panorama in the 1982 Hardy's Heroes, and Bob Morris out to match them and better them if he can for that $10,000 that goes with pole position. Coming around now, and it is quick too. 2 minutes, 19.3.
Well, did that seem faster or slower?
Oh, that was a little bit faster. I know it was faster because they rang me up and told me.
9/10 of a second quicker.
Oh, and we're just starting to use the brakes, and I think we can be very competitive in this race.
Gary Rogers, second of the Recar Commodore, will drive this car tomorrow with Queensland's Ron Wanless, another of the drivers that were taken out in last year's wreck and working the Commodore very hard. The Recar team is a very competitive team here at Bathurst this year.
Ron Wanless and Gary Rogers particularly have improved considerably. Gary's been around a long time, but in the last 18 months he's made enormous strides. He now must be considered one of the real chances of victory. Quite on the par with people like Alan Grice and Peter Brock and John Harvey.
Very aggressive driver, Gary Rogers. Throwing the car around the circuit now, coming down into the bottom at Murray's Corner. And this time is going to be very quick indeed. 2 minutes 19.2. And now, Kevin Bartlett.
Looking for 3 pole spots in 3 years. Big Rev Kev in the 9 Sports Camaro working up Mountain Straight.
On Wednesday, though, Colin Bond taking the car for a preliminary run, had the suspension break, crashed heavily. They lost 1 day in rebuilding the car. Kevin driving it yesterday. I said, what's the car like? He looked at me, he said, bloody awful. There's a brave man out there going as hard as he can.
Trying every inch of the way. Conrod straight, but I don't know if he's going to be quick enough.
I tell you what, it's not too bad. Bartlett coming down to the bottom of the straight now, and he's going to have a quick time. It's going to be an 18 plus to 18.9.
Great effort. Yes, they've blown a turbo. Not a real problem. They'll be in the race tomorrow, but that's it as far as today's concerned. But what a fast driver.
Oh, here's a fast driver indeed.
Here's the man yesterday who really socked it to Alan Grice, the man who is seen probably as a co-favourite to grab pole position. He knows his way around Mount Panorama. We speak, of course, of Peter Brock in the 05 car. Very, very fast through this part of the course. And, of course, for viewers across Australia, don't forget tomorrow, Racecam. The in-car camera coverage will be provided in 2 cars, one of which will be Peter Brock.
Fastest man so far has been Hasimi, the Japanese driver. Oh, look at this stuff from Brock. My, geez, really having to fight that car, isn't he?
Do you think drivers get it easy trying to qualify and win $10,000? Look at Brock working away there as we get the race cam pictures. Almost off the road at the top of the mountain. Brock catches it again. I think that will cost him in time. Really throwing this car around. Brocky looking for pole position. He's only got 1 straight to pull it off now. Here he is coming down Conrod Straight.
Inside the car with Peter Brock. Down to Conrod at the bottom. Takes the left-hander, and it's under 18. It's a 2:17.8 seconds.
You look very busy in the car.
So Brock is the quick man. Can Alan Grice beat the time?
Gricey, the Recar Commodore, the man who has a lot to prove to a few teams he was associated with in the past, really trying to get pole position. The first man yesterday to clock 100 miles an hour lap here at Mount Panorama. That netted him $5,000. If he can pull another good one today and get pole position, there's another $10,000.
It's been a great year for Alan Grice. Has a lot to prove. Very fast. Has been considered a bit of an aggressive and maybe unreliable driver in the past by some. He's out to prove that they were all wrong. And he's doing it in the best possible way. Under 100 miles now yesterday, the first man ever to do it. And oh, he is going fast. But he's smooth. You watch him climb up the top of the mountain. This is desperate stuff up here. They go terrifically fast. At the top, he's just as quick as Brock. It's going to be touch and go. Taking a good line, Gary. Look at the way he comes down here to the essence. Not damaging the car. Watching him off the wheel.
Brock, the quick man so far with a 2:17.8. Can Grice beat him?
He's very precise in his ordering. And a big crowd up on the mountain giving plenty of support to Alan Grice, and he has an enormous crowd along pit straight cheering him on also. Conrod Straight, the final time for the man who's looking for pole position, Alan Grice and the Car Commodore.
Down in the Grice pit, they're all watching the stopwatches, and I bet you Grice is going to have his eye on the clock too as he comes around Murray's corner. We've all got our eye on the clock. Is he going to do it? It's going to be very close. 2:17.5.
He's done it. Gricey has got pole position.
Well done, Gricey. Thanks, mate. Bloody good stuff. I saw it on TV. Look good.
Gricey, I think you're a ham as well as a race driver. You saved the best for last. Look at those numbers there.
Yeah, that did the job.
What made the difference?
I was a little bit cautious in the first one. I didn't want to throw the car away. Because we've won everything so far. We want to win the race tomorrow. But I just had a bit more of a go.
$5,000 yesterday, $10,000 today. How are you going to celebrate?
We're going to win tomorrow. That'll be a good celebration.
On our lap here at Bathurst. And who broke it? His co-driver, Alan Grice. Now, I want to know about the finances, Alan. Did you make money or save money with this?
Well, actually, I'm still trying to work it out. I'm not too sure what to do here. It was put up in all good faith. In fact, I even congratulated Peter Brock because I thought he'd won it. But the officials told us we won it, and I was quite happy. But I guess it'll sort of go from one bank account to another, and we'll all get a little bit out of it somewhere along the line.
Where I come from, the car owner gets some of the money the driver makes. You're going to take some back from Alan? You're going to give him all the $5,000.
Well, we just work out. We'll see what happens later on.
Let's now recap the top 10 driver combinations following today's $10,000 Hardy's Heroes and looking ahead to tomorrow's great race. Pole position and a happy man, Alan Grice and the Car Commodore number 4. The car will be co-raced tomorrow by Alan Brown. Position number 2, Peter Brock and the Marlboro Holden Dealer Team Commodore SS. His co-driver for the big race will be Larry Perkins. The second row, position number 3, the Japanese combination of Masahiro Hasimi and Hoshino. They'll be driving the Turbo Nissan. Position number 4, twice pole sitter Kevin Butlett in the 9 Sports Camaro. His co-driver tomorrow will be Colin Bond. Row 3 for position 5, the second of the Car Commodores with Gary Rogers and Queensland's Ron Wanless at the wheel. Position number 6, Bobby Morris and John Fitzpatrick, former winners of the Classic. They'll be racing the 7 Seiko Ford XE Falcon. For position number 7, the defending champions from Queensland, Dick Johnson and John French in the True Blue Falcon. Position number 8, the Peter Stuyvesant Mazda RX-7, to be driven tomorrow by Alan Moffat and Yoshimi Katayama. Position 9, the second of the Marlboro Dealer Team Commodore V8s, to be driven tomorrow by John Harvey and Gary Scott. And position number 10, it goes to George Fury and Bathurst veteran Fred Gibson in the Nissan Turbo. There you have the top 10 qualifiers for tomorrow's great race.
What sort of man is it who can wind himself up to produce one devastating final lap to claim the Hardy's trophy, $10,000, and put himself on pole position for the James Hardy 1000 tomorrow? Well, let's ask the man himself, Alan Grice. Alan, how did you do it?
Well, it's the motor car, really. If you haven't got a car that's as quick and as easy to drive as that one, it's a great, significant, it's a very great example of a motor car built by a lot of people over a lot of time to do a particular job, and it's done it.
And the trick now is to carry on and do it again tomorrow.
Yes, but you still had to go out there and do a 100-mile-an-hour lap, something that hadn't been done until yesterday, knowing you had to pull that sort of time to beat Peter Brock. That must rest on your mind when you go out there.
Yes, but it comes under the heading of pressure, and I lived under that for 2 years in another situation, and I'm benefiting from the relaxation of this term. And my driving is improved enormously because of it.
Well, Mr. John Reid, the chairman of James Hardie's Industries, is here with the trophy to present it to you. Alan Grice. Mr. Reid.
Well done, Alan. Congratulations. Thank you, sir, and thank you very much for your company's involvement in motor racing. It's not only appreciated by the drivers and mechanics, but everybody that's here. Thank you, sir.
Good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Alan Grice, then, is the Hardie's hero for 1982. A magnificent drive, Alan. Can you win the race?
We came here to win it, Evan. We'll win it.
Those early laps, what are they going to be like?
They'll be 19s with full load of gas, and it'll settle down to 20s.
And who'll be the cars all around you?
I won't be looking. Brock will certainly be there. Moffat will be there later in the day. During each fuel load, he'll catch us towards the end of the tanks of gas. I think it's going to be one of the best motor races, one of the best Bathursts that we've ever seen, because the cars are so equal. And don't forget my old mate Dirty Dick Johnson, who'll be lurking in the background.
The most open races for years, the race rather for years.
Yeah.
And the one where you could see a change in the fortunes of Alan Grice.
I hope so. Thank you.
Back to you now, Mike.
Gentlemen, please start your engines.
The 1982 James Hardie 1000 Classic and Alan Grice on the inside. Gets into the first corner quicker than Peter Brock. One up on the inside, trying to crowd as all the cars make their way into the first left-hand corner.
Moffat has made a great start, but has gone wide. So are many cars trying to consolidate their positions, and it's a mad scramble on the first lap up Mountain Straight. Brock trying to get past Grice as they go up the mountain.
Here they come towards Mountain Straight, and we have a three-way dice going for the lead with Peter Brock, Alan Grice, Kevin Bartlett moving up smartly in the 9 Camaro to keep in touch with them. Then we have Ron Wanless going through in car number 16. Grice stretching the legs of the Recar Commodore, heading up to the cutting.
Dick Johnson running in 5th place, heading this third through. Close behind him, John Harvey. Then we have Alan Moffat. Up through the cutting, the steepest part of the track, a 1 in 6 grade, very steep there, severe, a hard grind on gearbox, a full load of fuel, the adrenaline pumping in the drivers. Harvey right on the tail of Johnson there.
Wait for the cheers across the top of the mountain as Sydney's Alan Grice leads Peter Brock, then Kevin Bartlett in the 9 V8 Camaro down across McPhillamy Park. And it's Gricey. Brock right behind him. Back then to Kevin Bartlett. Gary Rogers is next. Dick Johnson. They were then followed by John Harvey and Alan Moffat.
Crowd rise to their feet as they tumble down the other side of the mountain. Brock right on Grice's tail. They've got Bartlett off by about 10 car lengths. Gary Rogers in the second Recar Commodore. Then Dick Johnson. Alan Moffat sandwiched in there.
First time to Conrod Straight. Grice is the leader. Very close to him, though, is Peter Brock.
Brock is perfectly placed to slipstream and pull out and pass. He may do. He's pulling out now. He's got a bit of a toe now. Just purely horsepower. Let's see how they go side by side. Lap 1 of the James Hardie 1000. Grice is still in front, but Brock is inching past him. The crowd down low in the circuit where they can see they're coming to straight out, rising to their feet. The cheers are beginning already. Breaking's going to tell the difference.
There's $1,000 up for grabs too. Gregory's Auto Service manuals have $1,000 up to the driver.
Grice is going to hold him out.
And Grice is going to add to the total already at $15,000 to pick up $1,000 as he leads lap number 1 of the James Hardie. But Brock this side comes up the challenge, and we say race down from the car as Brock goes through to take the lead away from Alan Grice and the Recar Commodore.
And you were there when he did it. Peter Brock carrying the race cam, got by Alan Grice at the end of lap 1. There's the view out the back. Grice is making a charge up Mountain Straight. He's coming close. You can see. That's the passenger's view. Grice weaving around, picking up undertow. He's quick up the hill. Now he pulls on the inside. We'll follow him through. Oh, he
can't quite hold him. Side by side, they got him out. No, he says, I haven't got the legs. Tries again, has to break. They're coming up towards Castrol Cliff. Through they go. They went through fearfully quickly now. Up towards the cutting. Brock's in front. Grice pulls out the pass. Comes up on the outside of him. Brock can see him. Grice is going through into the cutting. He's going hard and deep. A second gear corner this. A dab of brakes. Off with the brakes and hard. Who goes the wider? Brock in very close. Out wide to the fence. A little bit wider line. Up they come towards McPhillamy now. Up the mountain. And Brock is going on the inside. There's the crowd. And Peter Brock getting a great cheer as he goes to the top of the mountain. Grice, though, still in front. It's a two-car war between these long-time rivals. They are using up all the track and a little bit more. And it's once again Alan Grice who will lead across the top of the mountain. And the crowd are roaring with excitement. Inside the car with Peter Brock. He's working hard. Now he comes to Skyline, a frightening part of the
a region of calmer air there. Just get into it. Lower pressure. He's closing a bit though. He is definitely closing now. He's pulling out. He's got the slingshot effect. Side by side, but Grice is holding on. What a car he had. That Recar car flies. Side by side at something like 175, 180 miles an hour. There's Alan Grice watching Brock go by, but will he try and outbrake him? Yes, he will. Going a little deeper, coming towards the bridge, into the braking area. Grice says, I'll do it, thank you. Goes in a little deeper. Oh, that takes some nerve. He takes good brakes too.
Now, this is where Brock passed on the last lap round. Can he do it again up pit straight? He pulls out. And once more pulls up alongside Alan Grice. No, he doesn't do it. Grice, he holds him out coming up to Hell Corner.
I think he's quite satisfied. He's had a little grab there for the lead. Now he's stretching the car. He sits in again behind Grice. Whether or not he'll have a shot coming up Mountain Straight again. The order is Alan Grice and the Recar Commodore leading from Peter Brock in 0.5. Kevin Bartlett back behind them.
4.5 seconds between the they're setting.
The Commodores of the fleet, Alan Grice and Peter Brock. Again getting plenty of support from the folk on top of the mountain. Back inside the car again with Peter Brock as he...
they've been praying. 21 is the...
Scar has been involved, and we also have another one, Terry
Triple M car, Terry Finnegan.
Is also involved there.
Yes, one of the cars with Garth Wigston's car. They had moved up into 7th place.
Looks like Barry Lawrence and Jeff Russell in the other car. Is it 28, the Commodore?
It looks like McPhillamy Park, the corner we were talking about before, and I think that's where they're heading. It really is a dangerous sort of part of the circuit.
Yes, car 28, that's the one. Barry Lawrence and Jeff Russell in the Commodore. Terry Finnegan and his Commodore, car 15.
Oh, what wretched luck. He had qualified so well up in the first 12.
And car 21 is the third vehicle involved in this pile-up, and that's Steve Harrington that we just mentioned, having moved up from 13th place on the grid. And that's Kevin Bartlett, Dick Johnson. The three of them in pursuit of the two men out in front, and that's Alan Grice and Peter Brock. Brock to Harvey, the gap is 9.5 seconds, but only 0.45 of a second between the race leader, Alan Grice.
Oh, there we have Ron Wanless, who was running as high as 4th place at one stage.
Right. Gary Rogers in the second Recar Commodore.
He's going into the pits, going back.
Going the wrong way back into the pits too.
Yes,
now whether or not
he may be disqualified for this, it's absolutely illegal what he's doing, because there could be a car coming the other way. One of the officials is waving at it. You can see the agitation there. But Wanless is under a lot of pressure, had a problem. Whatever it was, wasn't prepared to do one full lap. He must, of course, so that's the rule. And they're trying to shuffle him off to one side of the track. Harvey already lapping cars. Number 60, Jim Panico is the Gemini. 48 is off the track. Goodness me, the attrition. This great guy, though, the Commodore driver from Goldman.
That's 4 Commodores gone.
I think he hadn't actually all by himself gone off into the sand. You can see Fred there standing. Very disgruntled. Only been, 6 laps into the sand, out of the race. Well, that's likely to happen. The faster you go, the bigger the risks. The smaller cars, if they can just be out of the trouble.
There's the Recar machine that has gone into the pits. That's Ron Wanless.
He's going to have fun turning that round to get out of the pits again, if they let him out.
Yes, he will be severely spoken to, I'm sure, for coming in the wrong way. It could have been such a hazardous thing. He's in the pit.
2 of the under 3-litre cars in the top 10 at the moment, both of them the Bluebirds. 56 and 55, the Japanese combination, and then Fury and Gibson surrounded by all those V8s, and we'll be back to...
He's lost all that sort of grumpiness he used to have because things are going well. He says he's in a team who prepare their car very well. He gets on well with them. Oh, he got sideways into the sand. He went there in the BMW last year, got stuck in deep sand. He has spun. I don't know how that happened. He didn't seem to be going in over fast. Whether he has a tyre problem, will he go into the pits? Or is he going to... No.
No, he's lost the race lead, though, by the length of pit straight because Brock has just taken Hell's Corner and is on his way.
saw that, in fact, in one of the helicopter shots. He was so close. Now, whether that's going to cause me any trouble, it certainly would be affecting the airflow into the radiator. Spoiler, Dick was saying he thinks he's loose, and he caught us out a bit of a flap on the edge. So certainly the...
Oh, he's gone. Kevin Bartlett's roll is over. Bartlett has gone. He's got Dick Johnson maybe through. No, Dick got out of the way. But the back tyre is off. The back tyre is off Kevin Bartlett's car. He went wide. I think the tyre came off at the start. Slid into the bank, hit, and a very slow and lazy roll across the track. A master is there to try and get Kevin up. He's okay. Kevin Bartlett, another wretched year for him. He looked to see the tyre, saying, what caused it? That's it. That's what caused it. He's happy. He's not happy what happened, but he knows what went wrong because he just lost the car suddenly coming up the circuit in that desperate dive from John Harvey. And Dick Johnson did miraculous things to avoid him. He saw the car going, went to precisely the right place, got out of the way. Let's watch it again now. You see him going wide. He's coming close. Now he's gone. Yes, it's a flat tyre. Hits the bank hard. He must be saying, what's happening? What's happening? Bang. And a slow and lazy roll over. The car comes across. Here comes Johnson, but the tyre is flat and the wheel rim digs in and over goes the car. Now, what's Johnson avoid? Flash of flame from his exhaust pipe. Johnson goes one way. And what's the way Johnson avoids? He has to duck back because the car just slid on its roof right across the track in front of him. Great work by Johnson to get round that. And there's the flat tyre that caused it all.
Exit Kevin Bartlett, who was running in 4th place in the James Hardie 1000 Classic. And it's just a walk away from the car.
Well, Colin Bond destroyed this car in practice on Wednesday. The boys from the Technical and Further Education College rebuilt it for them. Worked enormously to do it. Got it on the track. It was going so well. And another tragedy befalls the 9 Camaro. Here comes Peter Brock going up the mountain.
Peter Brock, Mike Raymond, if you can read us. Now, we won't disturb Peter as he comes past us, but he'll at least have a look there
towards BP Bend. Alan Grice, who's been running second, is coming into the pits.
In the pits, yes. Alan Grice in the Recar Commodore car number 4. There he is, pulling into the pits. Chris Conracki.
A high rate of fuel consumption has forced him into the pits before the scheduled time, and this could have dire consequences because it could commit the team to 4 stops rather than the planned 3 stops. The team manager is talking with Grice. We've got our clock ticking away. Some 22 seconds have already elapsed. The right-hand wheels are being changed and the air jacks are being let down. But the fuel is not yet all in the car. This tremendous pace that's being set today is burning fuel. Grice looks cool. He's having a glass of ginger ale, calm at the wheel. Fuel is all in. The left side is going down. They're changing 4 tires on the stop. The car has been in the pits 47 seconds. It's a long pit stop. Johnson was in for the nearest 50.86 seconds. 50.86 seconds. Does this mean you're going to have to make 1 extra pit stop before the day is out?
We're not too sure just at the moment. We're just going to see how it goes. We're going to calculate what fuel we used in that session, and we'll sort it out from there.
You think you're using more than you planned?
Well, you know, we did a test the other day, but it was in the wet, and you always use more fuel in the wet conditions. So basically we just wanted to stop a little early and just be on the safe side, and we'll work it out as the race goes on.
Okay, they're going to tot up the fuel again. 50 and 86 100 seconds, a long stop for Alan Grice. Back to the box.
Obviously, Alan Grice was sufficiently concerned about his rate of fuel to come into the pits. That could put a different complexion on the race, and that'll be good news for the Nissans and the Mazdas because they reckon they can go longer on fuel and they might win with the smaller, shorter number of pit stops.
Alan Grice is now in 4th position, so the race leader, 05 Peter Brock in the dealer team Commodore. Johnny Harvey, Alan Grice is 4th, and Alan Moffat in the Stuyvesant Mazda is 5th. Extensive work.
Wins friction proofing have added considerably to the purse here at the James Hardie 1000 this year. $500 goes to the overall leader at 1 o'clock. That's 20 minutes away or so, or 40 minutes away. That's to $500, and $500 at 2, 3, and also at 4 o'clock. So wins friction proofing, obviously heavily involved financially in this year's James Hardie.
Ron Wanless handing over to Gary Rogers. Gary will be a most disappointed driver, but he doesn't have a winning chance anymore. Meantime, where all the action is happening, it's over to Chris Economaki.
Well, we've got a lot of damage. Example of a car being driver changes, and then back here is a car that has got all kinds of damage on it. We've seen a race today where body damage and suspension damage has been really at quite a high. We're going to try and get a word with the driver here as to what caused things of this nature. What happened that got the front corner so banged up?
Well, I wasn't driving the car at the time, Chris, but one of the other cars in the race blew an engine up in the cutting, and Garth had nowhere to go, and it was just unfortunate. It was on oil, there was parts of the car everywhere, and he couldn't do anything about it. He just slipped on the oil.
You think you'll get back okay?
Well, you've seen the car. We'll give it a go,
Okay, patiently waiting here. But that seems to have been the story of the James Hardy 1000 today. The top 10 are driving very well. Those who qualified further on down seem to be all over the track. There's dented fenders, bent doors, scratched bodywork all over this racetrack today. Back to the box.
Thank you very much, Chris Economaki. It seems to me, Evan Green, the reason that's happening, the top 10 are driving so well and so fast, the others are getting into strife trying to keep up.
Well, Garth Wixom was in fact in 7th place when that happened.
There's Steve Masterton in the Masterton Homes CWS Century.
And he's passing car 4 now. Is Alan Grice going into the pits?
It would look that way. Hold that. Check out Alan Grice.
This could be the critical stop then as Alan Grice actually hands over. We see Masterton go by the pits and Grice is moving into the pits for what could be the most critical stop of the race.
Alan Brown should take over.
Now, an enormous load on the shoulders of Alan Brown. I think he's feeling a bit nervous about it. The man who went racing for fun and suddenly found himself in a winning team. He's helmeted up, ready to go. Alan Grice will give him instructions, tell him what the car's like, what the track is like. Try and calm him down, because Alan Grice gets on very well with Alan Brown, and we'll try and relax him. He knows the pressure facing a new driver, particularly when he knows he has to try and get out there and catch, first of all, Larry Perkins, then Peter Brock. There aren't many men on this track who could even face that challenge with any hope of making up ground on such drivers. Helping him with the seatbelt, adjusting him, talking to him all the time, calming him down. Alan Brown might own the team, might own the car, but he's the junior member of the partnership in terms of driving ability. He knows that, respects what Alan Grice will tell him. Grice is chatting to him all the time.
Quick pit stop if they can just get Alan Brown buckled up. Here now, the engine is fired. Brown's ready. Grice is relieved. And the Recar Commodore goes back into the race. Car number 4. We'll check out his position on the track for you in a moment or so.
You'll be asking Alan Grice if you can get a word with him about the tyre situation. Here's Chris Economaki.
Fire with Grice. Okay, right here with Alan Grice. Alan, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear, mate.
Okay, it's been a long stint for you. What kind of shape are you in?
I'm okay.
How about the car?
It's all good, except the brakes are. We're running out of pedal. You've got to pump the pedal up all the time, and it doesn't always pump up. So you're never quite certain when you arrive at a corner whether you've got a full pedal or half pedal or not enough pedal. So it's something that Brownie will have to wrestle with to get used to. It took me a while to get used to it.
What's it doing to your lap time?
Well, the problem is it makes it a little inconsistent, because if you suddenly go for the pedal and you haven't got very much pedal, you haven't got very much brake there, you virtually have to throw that corner away and try and just play it safe and then get back on the pace. So, it does upset you from time to time. I hope Brownie can cope with it okay.
Alan, what is the level of driving around the course on the part of the rest of the field?
Well, I've found it pretty good, to be quite honest. I don't know about the other blokes what sort of runs they've had, but except for the odd occasion, I've found my passengers through being pretty good.
What about the racing surface? Dirt, oil, pebbles?
Yeah, it's certainly deteriorated in that respect, but then there's a lot of people using a lot of rubber up and cutting corners a little, I guess.
Yeah, humming the pit.
And, the surface is quite slippery, quite treacherous. Probably why so many cars have stuck it in today.
Did you have any frights, any close calls during your stint?
Yeah, I had one sort of spin at the end of the straight there when I spun out of the lead, and that was the first real problem I had with the brake. I just suddenly went to the pedal and only had about half a pedal there.
Well, okay, get a good rest and hang in there. Alan Grice doing long duty here in the James Hardy 1000. Back to the box.
And after a short stint, Gary Scott, short but regulation, has brought
we thought we had a very good chance of winning this.
Race drivers are eternal optimists. You're looking forward to the next race, I imagine.
Oh, I will, yes, very much so.
Okay, Gary Cook, another one of the men, a victim of the James Hardie 1000. Back to the box.
Thank you, Chris. In the meantime, we have the pit stop for the second of the Recar Commodores, the Ron Wanless, Gary Rogers entry.
Been in the pits about 7 times.
We've heard reports that the Dick Johnson, John French-driven Ford Falcon, the Prudential car, has had a sway bar problem. John French, can you read us?
Yes, I can hear.
John, we had a report that you got a sway bar problem. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, they told me from the pits I got a sway bar broken. It was getting a bit oversteering. I thought it was just because I was getting the light fuel load, but obviously the front bar's broken. It slowed me up about a second a lap.
Can you keep on going with that problem, John?
Oh, yes, that'll be no bother.
What do you have to do to compensate for that?
Go a bit slower. Through the corners.
What, the tail wants to come out, does it?
Yep.
How will it affect you, John, on some of the rougher parts of the track? Because there are some rather nasty bits. Say where you're approaching now, where you dip down towards McPhillamy Park.
It's not too bad through the fast corners. It's only when you're flicking backwards and forwards. Through the S's and that.
It goes to show, John, that there's no substitute for experience, eh?
I hope you're right.
Well, I can think of a few drivers who have had a broken sway bar would come into the pits and maybe lose about 4 or 5 minutes.
They could kill me. I suppose that's why he picks an old fella.
How do you get on with Dick?
Oh, good. He knows I'm better than him,
No. So Dick Johnson back for the final stint in car 17.
Well, there's 1 minute's problem. We'll wait for it to come through. There we go. Let's see who we've got here. One of the Recar team cars.
16.
It was going quick, but blowing a puff of smoke. I don't know if it's on the wheel or whether it was coming out. Yes, he's rubbing a fender. He's had a bump by the look of it, cut something, and the fender has moved, or the guard anyway.
It may be where the car was damaged when Ron Wanless had that bump much earlier in the race. There may be something that was touching. Certainly there is blue smoke coming from the front of the car. Let's see under movement. It seems to be right bent to the left. What's it like to the right? Yeah, not so good that way. Yes, he's trying hard. Dick Johnson, in the meantime, has gone out a very quick stop. So Johnson is looking good and out on the track. Lost very little time there. Gary Rogers going quickly, but puffing smoke and he turns the wheel in certain directions. It may just be rubbing slightly, in which case you won't be too concerned. Down to the pit row where John French is lined up with Chris Economaki.
I'm here with John French. John, I must say that you look as though your stint has been easier on you than it's been on a lot of the younger guys. How was it out there?
Oh, it wasn't too bad, actually, Chris. Until this front bar broke, it was pretty good. But then with the light fuel load and hot rear tyres, it got a bit oversteery. But
that's a problem. The outright leader at 1 o'clock. They picked up the Motorola Communications Australasia Award for $500. It's the overall outright leader on the 81st lap. And looking good for the second of the Winds Friction Proofing Awards at 2 o'clock. So Alan Grice might have won all the early money, but the Marlborough Holden dealer team is starting to pick up at least $500 at a time.
There's the Phillips scoreboard, and that shows that Brock in the lead by 2 minutes and 14 seconds ahead of Alan Grice at the moment, and they're the only two on the front running lap. A lap down, John Harvey in the second dealer team Commodore, followed by Alan Moffat. This time was in Mazda RX-7 car 43, and then 2 laps down on the race leader Brock, we've got Dick Johnson in the Palmer Prudential Falcon car 17.
Oh, this is heady stuff.
Boy, look at this.
3 abreast, he pulled out to pass Alan Brown, then had taken another lap on the car coming second, so he's got by Alan Brown in car 4, and he had a big Chevy Camaro on the outside as well. That is pretty desperate stuff, but Peter Brock still going as hard as he can, driving his own pace. There's no finer judge of the way to take a car to victory than Peter Brock. But you have to take a deep breath and say, has been doing the right thing when you see him going 3 abreast up through the cutting about Panorama. And he got away with it.
Peter Brock is now the front running car in this race on the lead lap all on his own. And those
4 bottles of oil are sitting there waiting for Dick Johnson's Farmer Prudential Falcon.
He must have done the rings completely then if he's using that much oil, which suggests he's making one more stop. So not good news from Dick Johnson's point of view. There's Hasami, the Japanese driver, out there again after the long delay. In the meantime, our most distinguished guest, it's Alan Brown.
He's in third place. Can he regain second or even win the race from here?
You know, I don't even know where we are. Where are we now? Third. Well, he's pretty quick. I don't know how far behind he is. I didn't help things, but that's as fast as I could go without hanging on an arm cave somewhere and then saying, well, I shouldn't have done that.
It was an enormous burden on you to go out there.
Well, yeah, I guess so, but we done it for fun. You know, if I wanted to get another driver in, I guess I could have quite easily done that all today, as a matter of fact.
Well, you came into racing late. You did it because you enjoy it,
yeah,
and
right.
you suddenly find yourself up with the Tigers.
Well, that's right, yeah. This could be the last time I drive, and I just wanted to get in that car and have maybe that last one. And the week's been so good to us, I just wanted to be part of it.
Now, how long can Alan drive? He must be very close to his maximum allowable time.
I'm sure the boys have worked it out. They called me in, so I guess they've worked it right out to the limit, and I'd say that they'd be right on the limit. He'll be in the car the rest of the time, and I don't think he'll have to come in. They've worked it right out to the last gallon, as far as I know.
So Alan will be staying out there and trying to get back second and maybe even first when you hand in those early laps of the race.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Alan Brown, back to you in the power.
Thank you, Evan Green. Alan Brown, who certainly doesn't overestimate his ability.
Very refreshing, actually, isn't it?
Yes, quite delightful. But he's in it for fun. The idea of getting involved in motor racing was, as he said, for fun. Then all of a sudden, he wound up being in a team of winners.
Chopper shot from the Ricard Commodore, and now the pit lane. Barreling down Conrod Straight. Alan Grice, he's got some distance to make up if he's to recapture the head of this race from the dealer team. Peter Brock in 05, Johnny Harvey in 25. 3-litre class in this race currently being led.
Now, thanks again to Texas Instruments who join us for their first James Hardy 1000 Classic and providing a very unique scoring service here today. There's Alan Grice. Since taking over the car, we'll give you some time shortly on whether Grice is making any leeway on John Harvey, who is presently placed in second.
Minute 25 is the gap at the present time between Harvey and Grice. We'll keep an eye on that to see if it falls. I noticed Terry Shield in the Eurocars Mazda RX-7, who was expected to be one of the top running Mazdas in the race, is in the pits again.
He's driven well this week, Alan Grice. Really has impressed me. He's found some new confidence since linking with the Ricard team. Infinitely better driving we've seen throughout the season, not only at Amaroo Park, but also at Sandown, and here certainly in the James Hardy 1000 this year. Slower car waves to the outside. Grice takes the initiative straight down. That was the 35 Mazda RX-7.
Bill Alexander and Ron Gillard waving goodbyes. Alan Grice whizzes by in pursuit of the 2 cars ahead of him in this great race.
The Commodore, despite the problem that Grice mentioned early in the day, was having problems with the brakes, having him brakes pumped all the time, and then eventually when he thought they were pumped up, he'd go for a jab, and sometimes he wouldn't have enough pedal there. To be able to overcome those problems, Alan Brown mightn't have been doing the same lap times as Alan Grice, but when he handed the car over, it was still running good, and they were still in a competitive position on the track. Section there of the enormous crowd, probably the biggest crowd that we've seen here for a James Hardy Classic. No crowd figures to hand as yet. But as I said earlier in today's telecast, Sandown Park was claiming 60,000 people for the recent Castrol 400. I wouldn't like to hazard a guess of what the crowd is here today, but it's certainly at least double that. I'm not saying there's 120,000 people here either. Getting up to GTX Bend, Alan Grice, Ricard Commodore number 4.
like they're preparing for another pit stop over in the Marlborough dealer team area. I don't know what, and it looks like it's going to be another driver change. I don't know. Obviously, they may have to put Larry Perkins back in 05 just to ensure that Peter Brock doesn't overdrive the limit in this race. I thought they'd have calculated that fairly carefully. I didn't imagine that they'd change drivers twice. Review from the 7 chopper. Terry Lee and cameraman Doug Hampson.
We're behind the Citizen entry. Nowhere to pass there. You'll see the courteous driver move across for Alan Grice,
yes,
which he does.
Greg Topfer and co-driver Ken Matthews in that car. They've had a lot of trouble with it. They spent an awful lot of time in and out of the pits today. Bad luck for them.
Grice gets another gear down, and Conrod straight. No traffic on there, so he's got it wide open all the way down. We have our pit unit down near the Marlborough pits.
Dick Johnson. What a great race he's driven and what great service he's done for our commentary today. By the way, Mike, Grice has taken Johnny Harvey.
Heading up through the cutting, up through the top of the mountain.
Alan Grice now in second position on the racetrack. There he is. Because he's still over a lap, nearly 2 laps in fact, behind the race leader Peter Brock. But he's now split the dealer team pair, has overtaken Johnny Harvey. Harvey about 4 seconds behind him. Here they come, Grice. Next the left hand there, and Conrod straight opens up before him.
Not only past him, he's run away from John Harvey.
Well, Harvey about to come into view at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see what the gap is, maybe.
Well, that will certainly indicate just how much Alan Grice is on the move. Wait for Harvey.
Where is he? There he is. Well, gee, I mean, that's incredible.
No, I don't think that was Harvey.
Oh, I don't know where Harvey's gone to then, because if that's not Harvey, Grice has opened up an enormous break on him in the space of a lap.
That has happened. Harvey has problems.
Well, Grice has just passed our commentary position here along pit straight. Now, yes, here comes Harvey. We're checking the gap for you. And it is 7 seconds, 8 seconds.
Well, he's opened up 8 seconds from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain, and that would suggest that either Grice has called in during his last pit stop and fitted a turbocharger, or John Harvey has got problems and is dropping back.
The gap between Brock and Grice was 4 minutes, and I think we'll check that next time round, because if he's going that quickly, that gap could start to tumble as well. Out there trying hard, because the race now is getting into the decision stages. 132 laps gone out of 163.
There's Alan Grice from the Recar Commodore.
That's the view from the 7 chopper.
What a magnificent race Grice has driven here today. Led the race, hit an oil spot at the end of Conrod Straight, slid off backwards into the sand, had to recover. Dropped away to Peter Brock, handed over to his co-driver Alan Brown. Brock at that stage with a very driver in Larry Perkins. They were able then to stretch the gap.
30 laps to go, Mark.
Alan Grice has come back to second place.
So we've got about, an hour, 20 minutes remaining in the great race for 1982, and a lot can happen. But between now and then. You saw how dramatically things changed with the position regarding Harvey and Grice on the track just in the last 2 laps. Under the John Player,
Tommy O'Brien at the wheel from number 05.
Changing down, losing the minimum number of revs.
On the other side of the map. We'll take a break.
We're about 65 seconds behind at the moment, Evan. We're catching him at around 2 to 3 seconds a lap, but we've got a bit of a problem with our fuel load. We're starting to run a bit light. We might require a half a turn with 5 laps to go or so, but at the moment we are catching him, and whether Brock's boxing or not, you just don't know, but we're catching him.
So the instructions to Alan Grice are to try and win the race at this stage.
Oh, yes, for sure, all the way. You know, we're running high 22s at the moment, which isn't bad for this time of the day, so he's given it everything it's got.
It all depends on fuel. That's right. A pretty difficult calculation for the team manager to have to come up with.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to be about 5 laps short, but we'll just see.
20 laps to go in the great race for 1982. Grice has made up 25 seconds on Brock. But he's still 3 minutes. Oh, hello, look at that. 3 minutes 36 seconds ahead of Alan Grice in the Reed car Commodore. A further 36 seconds then to car 25 with Johnny Harvey in the second dealer team car. And 3 laps down then to, from the race leader, that is, to Dick Johnson in the Palmer Prudential Falcon. It's still V8s 1 to 5, followed by the BMW car 31 in 6th place. Steve Masterton Holmes Falcon has moved up into 7th spot in the outright standings.
We have our timer going on Alan Grice. We've been timing Peter Brock for those of you who entered the Clock Brock competition for a new Commodore SS. And to give you a comparison, we have picked up Alan Grice under the Hardy Bridge, and we'll follow him around and give you a time as he completes 1 lap.
He's been circulating the last 8 or 10 laps around the 222 mark, a shade under, shade over, not much variation.
He's got a BMW chasing him up the hill, which would be, of course, Kim Richards. Keep in mind that Grice drove this race last year for the BMW team. And I think any time where he can put one up on the board against the John Player BMWs, it seems to tickle his fancy just a little bit.
Steve Masterton on the road immediately in front of Alan Grice. Oops. Oh, moved over a long way.
Steve had to make his own arrangements then. Didn't do anything to help the confidence of Jim Richards, who was thinking about following Grice through the dipper. 20 seconds.
19 laps to go. 19.
Well, you heard it. 19 laps to go.
Here's some of the pit dialogue going back to the driver. Just couldn't pick whether, in fact, that was the Peter Brock car or Dick Johnson.
Well, whoever it was getting great economy.
Tremendous.
Braking into Murray's corner. The clock ticking over to 17:18. Grice comes under the Hardy's Bridge.
Oh, very sideways that time.
Yeah, that's what cost him time there. 2:24.09 on that lap. Not as consistent as he has been. Race leader Peter Brock, and that very likeable young man, Steve Masterton, and they have had a lot of handling troubles with that car, and I asked him this morning how it was going, and he said, mate, we'll be in there, he said, but it's a fair mongrel.
Nice to see him giving such a good rap to the product. I think Peter Jansen was heading into the pits. I just caught sight of that. There's a section of the huge crowd still here. No one's moved. They want to be a part of history when Brock puts one more notch on the belt for the James Hardie 1000. But if that doesn't happen, Grice comes from behind and wins it. There's still a few questions to be answered. Many of you have seen telecast of years gone by. Anything can happen in an Enduro 1,000 kilometres.
Jansen in 5th position on the track when he came in for this pit stop.
She called in for Cherry Road or something.
We don't have to make another stop, so we've all got our fingers crossed and we're looking good.
Yeah, well, let's watch this stop, Larry. It's an important one. He's moving. He hasn't refueled the car properly. Grice is underway. The churn is still in it. That is 1 minute penalty. One churn of fuel goes in. I thought, in fact, there may be some penalty. They're not supposed to be moving in the pit. But he took one churn of fuel and got out very quickly. So he's got a fuel problem. Does Peter Brock have a fuel problem?
No, we don't have a fuel problem. We've been just driving with the race.
Decided to go along for the ride for the last couple of laps.
Oh, a wheel's gone.
One of the Capris. Look at that shower of sparks. He heads to try and get off the track and out of harm's way at the top of the mountain.
At the end of the great race.
He's done it. He's won it. The 82 James Hardie 1000 goes to Figueroa. And what a reception from the crowd.
By that great pair who came second, Alan Grice and Alan Brown. Well, Alan, you were beaten, but my goodness me, you've made thousands and thousands of new fans.
Yeah, it was one of those runs, but I'd just simply like to thank Alan Brown very shortly and very concisely for giving me the motor car to show that I can still drive one. Thanks very much, Alan, and to Les and the boys that built it.
When I was talking to you in the pits, Alan Brown, after you'd handed out from your stint, you thought it might be your last drive. Come up here. How did you come second? What do you think?
Oh, no, I think I might give it away. I was sort of getting a little old for it, but...
You were a little old when you started.
Oh, exactly, that's right, yeah. But I really had a ball, and, there was a lot of pressure today. I could have slotted a lot of drivers in the car and made it a lot easier for Alan, but... and I think if he'd have had a co-driver who would have been right up there, just like Peter had, he would have given Brocky a bit of a run for his money, but anyway, it's my car, my money, and I wanted to drive it and be here, and I'm here.
I can see Gary Scott up here. Gary, and is John Harvey there?
And down here, a lot of people lined up that we're going to be talking to, and we're recalling some of the more memorable incidents that took place in the 1980 James Hardie 1000. But first of all, we've got one very important award that we should finalise right here and now. The Rookie of the Year award. And I want to bring in for you David Parsons from Tasmania. David, come on over here, please. David, co-driving with Peter Jansen in this year's race in the Cadbury Schweppes Commodore, has won the WINS Rookie of the Year award. Sit down. It was rough out there today. It was fast.
Yeah, I'll say it was. It was really, it was great.
Rookie of the Year, it's a pretty big honour, and it kind of gives you a lot to live up to, I guess, from here on out in a motor racing career.
Yeah, I'll say. It surely does. But, I'm really pleased that through Peter and Schweppes and all those sort of fellas that, only through them, there's no way I'd be here. Full stop.
Well, the captain is a bit of a character. How do you manage to cope with him?
You screw him up fairly well, you're pretty right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Cole Davis is here somewhere from WINS, and he's got a small presentation to make to you.
Congratulations, David. It's a wonderful drive. The first year in. This is our first year as sponsor for your award. So we look forward to you doing an even better job next year. Although you can't win this again, congratulations, and the check is on the way. Thank you very much, sir.
Check for 2,000, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that right, Cole?
WINS Australia and all our distributors around Australia.
Okay, congratulations once again. David Parsons, co-driving with Peter Jansen today in the Cadbury Schweppes Commodore, has won the WINS Rookie of the Year award, and certainly well